Jason Jorgensen back with you as we bring you another edition of HuskerChat. We are joined by Sean Callahan, the publisher of Husker Online. Well, Sean, it was another long bye week for the Huskers coming off that disappointing loss at Purdue. They'll try to put that loss in the rearview mirror as they take on Wisconsin. What's kind of your take on this one as Nebraska welcomes in the Badgers?
Yeah, Nebraska will come in refreshed. They practiced last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, but it was a lighter load. I think they really grinded the team out the previous couple of weeks, and they ramped it back on the bye week. And I think when you look at it, if you're trying to be optimistic for Nebraska, who's currently a 14-point dog, the one advantage I would say is Nebraska is fresh, coming off a bye, where Wisconsin had lost 2 in a row, then they had a bye, then they just played a physical game against Iowa. So you would hope that Nebraska might have just somewhat of an edge of being a fresher team. Can they put some new things in on offense with that extra week that are going to get maybe Wisconsin's defense off balance? I think that's how you have to look at it. The Indiana game, Nebraska was off a bye. I thought they put in some new things, and they looked good offensively. But unfortunately, that day, the defense didn't play well, and that's been the story of this season. One side of the ball might click, and the other doesn't. Can Nebraska finally put it together on a Saturday where both sides of the ball click?
I know you were there at the press conference on Monday. What was the general vibe that you got from the kids as they came up and took questions? And a lot of those questions still reverted back to what happened in the Purdue game.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Surprisingly, I thought things were more upbeat than I thought they'd be. I mean, it's kind of in a tough spot right now, and you're 4-5 as a 2 touchdown underdog with Wisconsin coming to town, but the spirits were high. I thought Scott Frost was optimistic as well and came in with a pretty good message where, it's not easy to do because this season has not been easy for anybody. And you look at it, Jason, I still sum this season up in 3 moments. 17-0 at Colorado, 14-3 against Indiana, and 10-0 against Purdue. Nebraska had 3 double-digit first-half leads that they blew in games that they probably should have won. And that is the difference between 7-2, 6-3, and where they're at right now at 4-5.
Today we're talking with Sean Callahan, the publisher of Husker Online, as we get set for the Nebraska-Wisconsin matchup on Saturday. Now, when Nebraska was getting set to come into the Big Ten, there were a lot of games that Husker fans were excited about. One of them was this Wisconsin game, but boy, since the Huskers have joined this league, this has been a tough series.
Yeah, it almost reminds you a little bit of Texas when Nebraska joined the Big 12. There was a lot of anticipation with Texas. Well, I think Nebraska was 1-10 against the Longhorns in their time in the Big 12 Conference. You look at this series with Wisconsin, Nebraska's 1-7 against the Badgers. And they play, if you knew this, Jason, a lot of people don't know this, they actually have a trophy for this game, but for 5 years now they've played for the Freedom Trophy. The Badgers have won all 5 of those games, and that trophy has stayed locked up in Barry Alvarez's office, is my guess, as Wisconsin, has owned this series. And, it's been disheartening because there's been a couple times. I mean, Mike Riley's team took it into overtime, and Mike Riley actually has had the best success against Wisconsin, in their meetings. Gaglione made a field goal to beat him at the buzzer, and then obviously the overtime loss. So they've played the Badgers better in those games, but Bo Pelini's still with the only win, and that was in 2012. And there's been a lot of yards, starting with Jonathan Taylor, who has 470 rushing yards in 2 meetings versus the Big Red.
Now, the trends would say this really doesn't help Nebraska coming into this one with all of the success that he's had and Wisconsin has had just lining up and running the football over Nebraska. As you look at this matchup, what specifically does Nebraska have to do at the line of scrimmage to slow him and that Wisconsin offense down?
Well, it's different, Jason, in that Wisconsin will try to just physically go straight at Nebraska. And a lot of teams have not done that this year. They've been more on the perimeters and more in space. And a lot of teams like Indiana a couple weeks ago, they tried to run straight at Nebraska with Stevie Scott, a big 230-pound back, and they couldn't do it. So they went away from that. That is the one thing that intrigues me about Saturday, because I do think Nebraska is physically stout up front, and a lot of people know that. So they put Nebraska in space, they put them on the edge. to create big plays. Will Wisconsin do more of that, or will they say, you know what, no, we're Wisconsin and we're still going to go straight at you and knock you back? That will be what I want to see, because I do think Nebraska is a strong defense, but a lot of people have tried not to go at them physically. They try to do it more on the perimeters and in space.
I know a lot was made this bye week about Nebraska and looking forward to this recruiting class. What's your take on where that's going? Will they have many visitors this Saturday?
Yeah, they're going to have some visitors. 13 commits right now. They still have about 10 more spots to fill. The big trend right now, Jason, is junior college recruiting. With the junior college season coming to an end, now you have a full year of film to look at. And we've seen a string of about 8 to 10 JUCO offers go out for Nebraska of the top players in the country at their specific positions, particularly outside linebacker, inside linebacker, receiver, defensive end. We've seen Nebraska make some JUCO offers here, and I think they would like to get about 3 JUCOs in this class, and they've made a hard run at that here this last week.
Well, hopefully it all comes together. Well, we'll see if Nebraska is able to toughen up on Saturday and take on the Badgers. Sean, as always, we appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jason. Enjoy the weekend.
You bet. And that was Sean Callahan, the publisher of Husker Online. For Husker Chat, I'm Jason Jorgensen. Hi, this is Jason Jorgensen, Sports Director at KRVN. Thanks for watching this video on our YouTube channel. Now, to keep up to date with all of the things we have going on in terms of sports, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. All you need to do is hit the little red button in the corner.